What's up, guys? This video, it came in kind of weird because the music was too loud for my voice, so I kind of I'm doing a voiceover. I've never done it before, so I'll try to sum it up as best I can. So the intro was a little weird. A lot of it was like talking about this guy's old life, I guess. Something about them coming back from a trip. I don't know. To me, it was all a little strange. I couldn't really make sense much of it because, well, he was talking about memories, I don't know. I couldn't really understand, but I thought it set the mood for really kind of fucking, weird. Like, I thought it was kind of just creepy, this creepy shit. I mean, you're at the beach, motherfuckers are just getting ready for school. What are we talking to? She doesn't want to go, but what can you do? I'll drop by later tonight. Okay, talk to you later. Bye. Right on, man. So the first night wasn't as interesting. I walked around for a little bit. The first thing that came to my mind was, what the hell? Why'd they just drop me in? And instead of answering the knocking door, I decided to look at this picture, which I thought was freaky. Then I tried opening all the doors for whatever reason, and there's someone knocking at the door, and I was like, let me check all the other doors instead. So I explored the house for a little bit, clicked on whatever I could click on, eventually leading to, going to answer the door, and lo and behold, my fucking neighbor's here, asking me a bunch of shit. He's like trying to fucking talk to me like there's not a bunch of shit going on outside. I guess he just like came by to warn me about what was going on. He was really he seems like a nice guy, so at first, and I let him do his little spiel, let him fucking go on and on about his cousin and all the bullshit that she's been telling him. He's a really scared guy. He doesn't really know what the hell to think about all of it, honestly. He's just really telling me about the visitors. The monsters in this game, I guess, are called visitors. But yeah, he was just mostly scared, trying to hope that everything was okay. He told me that the sun was gonna explode or some shit. Like, it was acting weird the past couple of days. So the sun was like maybe gonna explode, but it's been really hot, like hotter than it's ever been before, which at first I thought that was the creepiest thing. I didn't know what to think about that, but that was pretty interesting. He came by. He told me that being home alone was dangerous, which I thought was really weird at first, but I guess it's not so weird. Like, you're supposed to, it's the whole gimmick, you need to have people in your house. Anyways, once he took off, I went to sleep, and the morning came and the news came on. The news was more of like the same thing. I thought this guy's eyes was really funny, but anyways, the news is more of the same thing. The sun is getting really strong. They don't know why, they don't know how, and they don't know what to do about it. Basically, this guy was just on the news freaking the fuck out, talking about how hot it was, and like, oh, it's hot, oh, it's fucking hot outside, really just trying to, what seems like to me was inciting panic. Because what kind of government is gonna go on the news and start telling people, oh, you can't go outside, it's too hot? Like, that's dumb. But after that, something came on the TV. It was just some ballerinas. I didn't understand why they did that. It was a little weird. But, it was supposed to be on the lighter side, I suppose. The next day wasn't so different. I looked in all the doors until I found him sitting there. I thought it was really funny that I could just like close it on him and go explore other shit. I looked at the radio. So the instructions were really simple, but I'm kind of an idiot. So I read them, and I guess I just didn't fucking like accept them in my brain or something, because I didn't figure out how to work the radio till probably when it was too late. probably made some mistakes because of that, actually. But, you know, I started messing with it, trying to see if I could fucking do something. I ended up giving up on it right here. I went back to go talk to him. Basically, he was just trying to say how scared he was and that, oh, it all makes sense that the shit's fucked up, but saying he was just giving me a little more of the basics, like who to let in, how you could tell, who you like, what you should do, why you should let them in. And what the why you should let them in wasn't that good. It was more just kind of like you should let them in because you don't want to be alone, which I felt he didn't really explain that well, but I mean, that's whatever. He started telling me about the beers and stuff, and so if you drink a beer, you can use it to go to sleep. And at first I was like, oh, that's cool, but I guess it ended up not being that useful for me. Anyways, he was getting ready to leave. He gave me his phone number, which I thought was weird, you know, giving a dude your number. Just kidding. But he gave me his number so I could call him, and he told me to drink a beer so I could go to sleep, because I guess, yeah, the beer makes you go to sleep. So, of course, without even checking if he spiked my beer or anything of the sort, just kind of trusting my neighbor in this apocalyptic time frame, I went ahead, you know, finished up with his dialogue, and I popped myself a quick beer, you know, hopped in the fridge. I thought the fridge was a little barren for an apocalypse kind of thing. They had a fucking rotting lemon in there, but whatever, you know. Booner Cook. I didn't even know how to read the beer, but I drank it and I went straight to sleep. There's not much to see in the day. Then night eventually came. This little girl came to my place. Honestly, she scared the shit out of me. I thought she was one of the monsters, but I guess she was just out here lost and she was looking for her dad or some shit, you know. So I asked her about her dad, but in reality, I didn't really know that much about him anyways. Yeah, she was just kind of crying the whole time. Then she smiled like this. I was like, oh my fucking god. She really scared the shit out of me with this. But she seemed like a nice girl till her dad came and picked her up. Honestly, he scared me too. I was like, yo, fucking that kid just got kidnapped, man. But not long after, someone else knocked. It was this tall ass lanky motherfucker, bro. This shit scared the fuck out of me because I couldn't see his head, dude. It really scared me, and I don't think I let him in. The next person to come by the door was this lady. She had like a fucked up shoulder. That really made me sus of her, bro, so I didn't let her in. I told her fuck off. She was nice, but I don't know. I thought this was like a game where you're looking for anomalies of the person, so, you know, I didn't trust that shoulder thing. I told her to go away. Felt kind of bad later, but next guy that came was this gravedigger guy. He was fucking freaky, man. Honestly, I don't know what I was thinking with this guy. You know, for a while I thought he was just some freak, but the more I talked to him, the more he was like, you know what? I like this guy. I think I'm gonna let him into my humble abode. Let him rest his weary head, man. You know, he looked really strange. He was making a strange fucking, look at his posture. Look at his back, fucking like a circle, man. But, you know, I had a good feeling about him. So I did end up letting him in my house. That was the end of that night, but I decided to look through the windows. I was too scared to before. This one just showed my neighbor's house. I thought it looked really cool. Pretty interesting little house he had right there. After that, I backed off and I decided to look through the rest of the windows to see if there was anything else. This window had some teenagers. I thought that was cool. You know, they were just chilling out there. I was like, man, what a time to be alive. Type of shit I want to be doing right now, but, you know, I'm editing a video. Next thing, I checked this one. There was nothing there, so I thought it was okay. So I decided to go to sleep after that. Once I woke up, the news was on. I don't think I clicked on the TV here, but basically he was just telling me that people are going fucking crazy. The sun is getting even worse, and everyone's just getting fucking anxiety over it. And I think the world's gonna end. You know, everyone was really scared, really freaking the fuck out. After that, they told me something that was important. He said something about a way to identify the thingies, the little fucking freaks, man. Basically, like, if their teeth are perfectly white, then they're not okay, you know, which is a little scary because, you know, people just have white teeth sometimes. Then on the advertisement, there was something like, they were basically just saying like they have fucking DoorDash. I don't think I ever used this during the playthrough because honestly I never saw much point into it. I didn't use the beers very much, but if I play again, I think I'll have to give it another try. The next morning, I got out of bed and I decided to look around for a little bit until I ended up walking into the room where the guy was sitting in. Which, look at how he's sitting, man. He fucking freaked me out. He told me a story about why he was a gravedigger. The story more became that he fucking was digging down a body, right? And I guess the body the next day disappeared. It was fucking freaky. I ended up checking his fucking teeth because that's all I could check. Now this really freaked me out. This was just weird. Like, you were looking at his teeth like that. It was fucking nasty. But I guess the teeth are supposed to be nasty, and if they're not, if they're white, they're a fucking thing. And since his teeth were like fucking gold teeth that he had apparently stolen out of some graves, which is fucked up, but he did steal these teeth and his teeth were fucked up, so I guess he wasn't a fucking, you know, anomaly or whatever. After that, I left him alone, had myself a nice little beer. You know, my guy got all sleepy, which I never realized if he had a name or not. But yeah, I went off to bed and woke up at night, I guess. So the next night was a little more eventful. The first thing I did was look out the windows, and this scared the shit out of me. I was looking at this motherfucker like he was gonna come charge me. Like, first of all, look at him. Look at how he's standing. Look at how fucking, he just looks fucked up, man. This genuinely startled me, and I did not know how to feel about this. I felt shaken. I felt abused, man. You know, and the narration was just fucking trying to add on to this eerie ass feeling of fucking death and fucking misery. The next window I looked out shocked me even more, because all the teenagers who were out there literally yesterday are all on the ground dead. Someone killed them. I was like, yeah, no shit. The big, you see that fucking thing out there? That killed them. Then I took off of that window. I decided to check out the last one before looking at that poster for a second. All that was out there was my neighbor and the daughter playing outside, which I was like, that's a little strange that they're playing outside with this fucking monster not even 5 feet away from their house, but, you know, to each their own, I suppose. Anyways, I looked out the window. First thing of the day was or the night, was this weird, church guy. Now this motherfucker, he was an asshole. Dude, this guy was a dick. He came to my door fucking saying, oh, I need to be in your house. I need to live here. Which I was like, okay. Then he started making demands. He's like, oh, I don't like drunk people, and there can't be nothing bad, and there no vermin, no fucking nothing. He was basically bitching about my house, that he came up to me asking for it. He's asking to live here, and then he did this freaky ass thing, dude. Now this scared the shit out of me. I was like, what the hell is he doing? Look at his face, dude. He looks like fucking face hugger or some shit from Alien. You know, but either way, I did allow him to stay. I thought, you know, he's a priest. Look at him. What kind of fucking weird monster would be carrying that thing around? So at the end, I did decide to let him in. And then the next person who came was actually one of my favorite characters out of the whole thing. He was like this cool dude who was like a chill stoner, you know, he was vibing. He's like, oh man, dude, bro, what's up? But basically, he was just fucking around outside and he needed a place to stay. He thought this whole thing was like some fucking cool movie, which I thought was amazing. I was like, how can you be living like this and think it's a movie? But you know what? Sure, man. I did let him in. I had a great feeling about this guy. One of my favorite characters. Yeah, he was one of my favorite guys. He was fucking like rad, bro, awesome. You know, like he didn't even know what the hell was going on. The last guy that came for the night was this like lumberjack guy. But you know, I was thinking, where my thought process was, okay, we need like a survival. I feel like we're building a team, you know. That's where I thought we were doing. You know, the first guy's a priest, the second guy's chill, and then we got this guy. He's like a outdoors kind of guy, you know. He's like a lumberjack, a survivalist. He was living out in the forest by himself, and I guess apparently one of those things came out there, fucked with him. He's like, oh hell no, I'm getting out of here. But you know, I was telling him what kind of guns he got, you know, but I guess he fucking lost it while he was sleeping, which I found a little weird. But at the end of the day, I thought this guy would have been a great addition to our team. So I did, in fact, at the end, I did let him in. I told him, come on in, man, you know, get yourself set up. He thought that was cool. He's like, oh, you're not a pussy like all the other people. I'm like, okay, dude, but I'd still be afraid of him. After that, I went off to bed. When I eventually did wake up in the morning, the news came on again. I don't think I clicked on it, but it just came on automatically. Basically, the dude was just talking about how the heat is getting worse and the visitors are getting worse. You know, I think he was really just freaking people out. But he ended up telling us about the new government organization founded. They called it FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency. Basically, FEMA's job was to go around and fucking kill the visitors. That's all that they were supposed to do, or at least that's all they told us they were gonna do. FEMA is a big part of the playthrough, I suppose. They kept coming up to my door a lot of the time. He did tell us about a new way to identify the visitors as if they had dirty hands, which I thought was very strange because you have dirty hands, everybody has dirty hands. Then this ad came on, they're pretty much just glazing FEMA, talking about how great they are. Like, yes, FEMA come to our aid, man. You know, they're really happy to have them around with us, but I was like always really suspicious of them. Even from this alone, I was like, why are they glazing them so much? But you know, you get this phone number to call them if anything strange is going on or if you think there's a visitor. So, you know, I thought that was okay. The next thing I did was decide to open the doors when I first saw this guy. So the priest's story was basically, he didn't really have one. He was just talking shit for the most part, saying how disgusting my house was, how ugly everything was. So that kind of took my suspicion away from him, because why would a monster come in talking shit saying how ugly the house is? Like, you would think he would want to leave. Next thing I checked on this guy, his story was interesting too. What he was telling me was that he fucking saw that tall guy. Remember I saw the tall guy the other night? I guess he saw him too, which was like, I was like, holy shit. Like, yeah, I saw this motherfucker. But he was telling me the reason he left his cabin was because the tall guy went and attacked him. And I guess him and the tall guy like fought a little bit, but you know, he told me he would tell me more of the story if I brought him a fucking beer. I was like, okay. You fucking what a dick, man. He just wants a beer. He could've, why do you have to wait till tomorrow? You could've just asked now, asshole. Anyways, checked on this guy. He was sitting in the fucking bathroom for some reason. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna judge. His entire thing was, he's like not concerned at all. He was mostly just like, oh, I miss movies, man. And you know, I thought it was like one of those things where like they're gonna trick you into liking him. So I tested him. I looked at his teeth, which was, I mean, he had normal teeth, I guess. They're yellow, so I thought it was alright. At first I wasn't sure because they're a little straight, but you know, he said they're yellow like corn, so I supposed he was alright. After that, I walked over, checked out the poster again, not sure why, but I decided to test the priest because, I mean, I didn't like him. So I had him show me his teeth. Now this was disgusting. He doesn't fucking have teeth. And he was like, oh yeah, I swallowed them whole. I was like, oh my gosh. Next thing I did was try to mess with the radio again. Mostly ended up just fucking it up, like spinning in a circle most of the time. I'm not sure exactly what I was trying to do here, but I thought I was close because I was trying to line up the first word, and I didn't realize again till later that that timer right there on the side, like where the bar is filling up, that's the amount of time you have to do it. And I ended up looking in my room again, but I decided to check out the kombucha. I thought it was just like something they would give you every night, like, oh, you save the game, drink your thing, there you go. But this ended up not coming back at all, which now I kind of regret. I should have saved it a little better. This night was a really interesting one because a visitor actually came straight to my door. He wasn't trying to disguise himself or anything, and obviously I was a little freaked out. I was like, what do you want? He was complimenting my house, which I thought was weird because we had a guy complaining about my house, and now this guy's nice and he kills people. But he wanted to know if I was alone, and he did this creepy ass smile. I said no because, you know, there's people in my house. Apparently that made it my lucky day, and he heard people inside, so I thought it was strange he would even ask. He left with a message saying, who knows where they'll be in a couple days. Fucking ominous motherfucker. I decided to look out the window. I saw a group of armed soldiers. They're providing security for FEMA, and you know, something about a torso. They're trying to track down some visitor. Then these fucking FEMA officers were like burning the bodies of those teenagers. I thought that was fucked up at first, but I guess it makes sense because what if the disease, yeah, there could be diseases in the air if you just leave fucking rotting corpses everywhere. Next, the FEMA employees went to our neighbor's house. They were taking soil samples or trying to set up base. I think they were trying to steal his house. The next person who came to my door was this, honestly, she was like one of those people who like read the star signs. She was trying to like say there was some bad shit going on in my house, that there was just this horrible energy inside. She was telling me about that I'm an assertive person, which I suppose was true. I was just confused, so I said, huh? And she said she thinks I take action rather than talk. She's trying to say I'm a Leo. I was like, you know what? Goth baddie, bro. Let's let her in. But she was trying to fucking like say that the bearded guy in my house, the dude who's telling me a story, like she was trying to get him to leave so that she could come in. Which at first I was like, nah, man. I wanted her because I was like, goth baddie, but she, you know, she's not that useful. That guy's a survivalist. Plus, he had a story to tell me. So, you know, she threatened me with diarrhea when I told her to fuck off. And she made this weird face. The next thing that happened was this bald guy came. And, you know, this was what I thought was really interesting. Because he said we've crossed paths before. But I've never seen this guy. I don't know if I have. I'm fucking positive I haven't. But he wanted to start the conversation off with, I couldn't read that word. He wanted to do a fortune telling. And I thought, okay, open the book at the end because, you know, the end is the good part. I wanted to read this. It said, it will only exist in the memory of a person who was long gone. And, you know, really ominous. Maybe no one really exists and it's only raining outside. It feels like things might truly fade away very soon. Now, this motherfucker was like, he was saying some scary shit. Trying to ask me like hard questions. And I told him, what the hell does that mean? He says he needed to think it through. And if I had any insights, I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. But events will truly begin to unfold and that I needed to be ready. Which, he said one important thing, that a cat must enter. It was important so that the cat came in the house, which I thought was weird. I looked out the window again before eventually heading into my room and going to sleep for the night. It was a really strange night. After waking up in the morning, I watched the news. I got a bit of energy. I didn't know how I got that. I assumed I did something right. But He was telling me how things are still getting worse, that FEMA had identified a new way to see if someone was a visitor, is if they had blood red eyes, which is another thing I felt was strange because a lot of people have red eyes. Well, after that, I decided to check up on everyone. So when I spoke to the gravedigger, he basically told me about when he was digging a grave and he looked out into the, he looked out because he saw something, but that it was some fucking freaky ass dude with fucked up eyes, and he basically, this just scared him off and he ran away from that shit because he was scared. But then what happened next was I decided to check on the priest. Nothing really interesting with him. Moreover, he was just kind of talking shit, saying how disgusting my house was, like, and I was like, why the fuck are you here then? He's like, well, I didn't have any other options because apparently his monastery had been destroyed, or like something happened to it. But yeah, all he was doing was talking shit about my house, that he would never have come here if he didn't have other choices. Then I talked to Mr. Stoner guy. I was asking him about what he was doing for work. He said he worked in a warehouse kinda, but he admitted to mostly just living off of his parents. And he kept thinking that all of this was just a movie, like asking about movies and shit. But I mean, he was proud that he was living off of his parents. Then I decided to go check on Mr. Lumberjack guy, so I could try and get some more of that story out of him. I was a little sus of this guy because of how the lady told me that he needed to leave the other night. But I decided to get some of the story from him. I gave him a beer. He said that he was held up in his cabin, keeping to himself. Mostly that one person showed up, desperate, banging on the door, begging to come in, but that he hadn't gone crazy yet, which was strange. I guess he's crazy. That the guy had pale skin, seen death itself. He had no clue how he got that deep into the woods. That this guy didn't look like any hiker he had seen before, so he told him to fuck off. He tried to break in his window, and he scared him off with a gun. He was sure that he would never see him again, but I guess he had found him once more. But he cut the story off, saying he was gonna, tell me another time. And I was like, you dick, you just want another beer. Sure. And he's like, yeah, that's all I want, motherfucker. He says he doesn't speak till it matters, so I guess what matters is that you have a fucking beer. I saw those two little cases in the back, so I was wondering if, that was my beer. But next thing I did was try and call my neighbor. Now the neighbor this was crazy to me because FEMA had showed up at his house the other night, and it was like freaking him out kinda that they took someone out of his house. So I decided to say, well, it's a good thing they didn't take your daughter. And he told me that he would never let that happen over his dead body. If those bastards hate so much, lay a finger on her, that he would tear them apart. And I asked him what FEMA was, because they're not really, he didn't have a lot of information either. That they're just coming out of nowhere and they're not giving us information on who these people are. So this whole thing just made me even more sus of FEMA. Because how do they know these people have these traits? Yeah, they weren't telling us everything. So I asked him, where did they take the guy that came by their house? And he said he didn't know, that they just said it was for tests, that the government would fix everything. And he's saying that he should have known better than to trust the government. So I ended the call there. But he did have another request for me, which was, it's a very hard thing he asked. He wanted me to take care of his daughter. Now, in times like this, I thought that was really, really rough thing to ask, but I did promise him that I would do it because, he was a nice guy. He came by out of the goodness of his heart to explain things to me, so I did agree. I checked back up on this guy, and I decided to test him because I was sus of the other night how the lady told me that he had fucking, bad vibes and shit. Now, he did have dirty hands, which is a sign they're a visitor. Now, this really kind of freaked me out because I didn't know what to do. I was like, that's a sign. But he was already here and he hadn't done anything bad. So maybe it's like, oh, you know. So I decided to check his teeth. Looked at his teeth, they're fucked up. And if you have straight teeth, you're a visitor. So I suppose you need like more than one to be like a fucking visitor. I checked this guy's eyes because I hadn't checked him yet. Well, I checked his teeth, but I wanted to see more about him because I wasn't sure. I feel like you can have more than one problem with you if you're a visitor or not. Next thing I did was fuck with the radio for a little bit. I did not get anything out of it. I really couldn't figure out the radio for the longest time, so I decided to put that down and go to bed for the night. After waking up for this nighttime cycle, I decided to try to look outside when I saw that my neighbor's house had actually burned down. I was really surprised because the day before I was just talking to him. This was insane to me because he was, you know, I was a little suspicious because he was saying how Fema was suspicious. The next window had the visitor again, but this time he was holding the fucking soldier's head. Like, this was fucking terrifying. I really jumped in real life because of this. Like, look at how he's standing there with that smile. He's smiling, holding a fucking head. After I backed away from that window, I decided to check the last one, and what was out there was a bunch of bodies that were, all the soldiers that were out there yesterday, massacred all over the floor. Really just insane. So after that, someone knocked, and it turned out to be a FEMA agent. He was making calls around the neighborhood, seeing who was around. I asked him if he was alone, and he said no, that his squad had split up with a bunch of other groups to cover ground. Basically, next I asked him, why is he wearing protective gear? I wanted to know, but he said that that it was just to make him feel safer, that they didn't really know if there was any negative effects from the sun outside, but since they were outside for so long, that they needed to wear it. Then when he's asking to take people, he wanted to take one person with me, and he ended up taking the priest with him. I wasn't really trying to argue with him because I guess he wanted to help, but I let him take him. Next came this like really fruity guy. He's wearing a crop top like a weirdo. I told him that I didn't want him in my house, but then he said he had cat food, and I thought that was important because I was supposed to bring a cat in. The bald guy had told me, so reluctantly I did let him in. Next, the little girl came. This was crazy because she was freaking out and her house was literally burning down. I was like, what happened? Are you all right? And she didn't know what to do. She was scared. She's saying people killed her dad. And man, that was really devastating because I was just talking to her dad the night before. Apparently he was talking to some people in there and they just killed him. That her house, she was sad because her house was on fire, and I did promise my neighbor I would look after her, so I did let her in. Last person who came was this person, I was like positive she was a visitor because she had the perfect teeth. Also, just look at her neck and her back, it's just it's insane the way she's proportioned. I wasn't sure what to do here, but she had the cat. But this was one of the first people that I knew for sure was a visitor. She was asking if I was open. Reluctantly, I had to let her in because of the cat, and she said she would make herself a home here. No one else was coming tonight, and the cat was laying on the floor. Some ugly ass cat. It's really looked all fucked up, man. Went around knocking on the doors a little bit. You know, I was trying to listen in because the other nights I was hearing them like whispering in there. They were whispering, just more making noises and stuff. But after that, I just went to bed and called it a night. Morning did eventually come, and I got this message that said somebody had died during nighttime, or that it smelled like that. The news came on, and FEMA had apparently put out these new protection measures. What they wanted was to keep everybody in a full quarantine for all the major like cities and all the areas, so that so if you were to leave these areas, they would kill you. You had to stay in there in your city or wherever you were, and if you tried to leave, you'd die. This was this was getting really suspicious, and they had identified that if you had hairless armpits, you actually were a visitor. And I thought that was a major win for the armpit people. I decided to walk around, check on everybody, because I wanted to see who died. And I was surprised to see these bags by a little girl, so I was guessing the lumberjack guy is dead, which was a real shame because I liked that guy and he was telling me a story. After checking on everybody, the first thing I decided to do was go back over here and, well, I decided to talk to the little girl. She was asking for her mother. I told her I don't know what happened. And then she was telling me the story about how people came by to her house, started talking to her dad, and, well, they killed him. Next, I decided to talk to this guy. I was asking him why he's feeling all cheerful. He was telling me that since we're all still human, we do need to hold on to cheer or enjoy. Because if we do, maybe when it's over, we'll forgive each other for how bad things went. He thinks that as long as there's compassion and humanity, everything will be okay and things will go back to normal. So, since I was sus of him, I decided to test him, so I looked in his eyes. They were clear, which meant he was okay, because if you had red eyes, then you were evil. Then I decided to talk to this girl. I knew something was up with her. She was acting really strange. She was talking really weird. So I decided to look at her teeth because that was the first thing I saw that was wrong with her. So when she opened up her teeth, they were clear and perfect and white, meaning she was definitely a visitor. Plus, once I let her in, somebody did die, so I knew it was her. Now, this is the first time I had a visitor, so when I pulled out the gun, I was a little surprised to see her reaction. She was laughing, telling me to shoot it. I was like, you know, they don't gotta ask me twice, so I fucking shot her. And then she said that's what she wants. Never thought she'd favor a big idiot. Now that had me confused. There's a little fucking weird ghosting right there. It left her body there. Then I went to go talk to dude, man. He was really just kind of telling me he was bored, that there's no fucking movies, no tapes or anything. And I was, at this point I was like, bro, what the hell? We're in an apocalypse, man. He's over here saying he's dying of boredom. I didn't have any movies, so he told me, I was like, you can't be serious. He was in disbelief that I didn't have any movies. But he wanted to use the TV in my room. I honestly would have let him, but it wasn't an option. He was really upset about that. He called me a buzzkill, which did make me a little sad. I was like, bro, I'm not a buzzkill, I'm the fucking life of the party. He told me to calm down. He said this place sucks, but it's better than being outside in the streets, which is factual information. The next thing I did was I saw this hole in the ground, and it turns out I had a basement. There's not much in here, just some food, some dirt, some potatoes. There was nothing really to interact with down here, so I looked around for a little bit, trying to make sure there's nothing too interesting, so I decided to go back up. Then I fiddled with the radio for a little bit, actually getting something to come through for the first time. It turned out to be more of an advertisement than anything else for something called phone roulette. Basically, you dial a number and it puts you through to someone who's just like, I don't know, your perfect match to talk to. I felt like this was a little useless, but I did end up using it later. I talked to the cat, he didn't say nothing, he meowed at me. I actually fucking pet the cat, he really liked that. Or it was hard to tell if he liked it or not, but he had love hearts, so I say he liked it. Then I picked the cat up, he looked really grumpy, just in my arms like that, I don't know, looking at me like I'm the evil. And he ended up wiggling out of my hands, and I called it a night there and went to sleep. When this night came, I knew it was going to be a really messed up one when I looked out the window and I could see the ruins of my neighbor's house. Their happy family lived there, and now it was just some ghostly remains. I knew this was coming though. Then I saw the soldier's head from the other night, but it was on a pike. And the skin had been burnt black and someone ripped the teeth out. Next, the next window, the FEMA soldiers were taking the loot off of the dead soldiers' equipment to prevent people from going around looting it. Next, when I looked at my door, there was another FEMA agent. He said he was running routine checks around the neighborhood. I asked him when the people he took would be coming back, and he was surprised to know that their team had already been here. So he ended up taking the fruity guy with him, and he told me that there wasn't really much they could tell me. Next, the anomaly guy came back, and he wanted to talk to me. He was asking what I thought of the guy in the suit, so I assumed he was just watching. I know, I didn't really care. I said he's just doing his job, which he responded that times were rough, and it's just one thing after another, that maybe the suits would restore order. I'm not so sure about that. Then he started going on about what someone can even do in the face of a cosmic calamity and death. Then he asked me the question if I was alone. I told him I wasn't alone, and he was surprised to see that I'm still scrambling to try and survive in the new world. He asked me why. He said dogs rule the world now and only dogs survive here. He asked if I understood that things would never go back to the way they were. Of course I understood that life had really changed. Next person who came by was the bald guy. He was happy to see the cat was with me and said that I could decide what to do with the person who brought it, the anomaly, which I was surprised that he knew there was an anomaly and that he didn't kill her himself. He didn't suggest I should kill her either. He said a powerful entity awaits for the cat's approach, that he doesn't know because he can't see everything. That's confusing because what does he mean that his eyes don't see all and that he sees far though? I was really confused on what this guy really is. He said I couldn't halt what was coming and maybe that they would mention it on the radio and that I should listen. I really didn't know what was gonna happen, and he said that he had said too much already and to treat the advice as I wished, cause 2 days from now, testing portends doom, which was really ominous. He wasn't giving me a straight answer, and he said when he first came here he had felt something strange. The feeling is now subsided though, that he thought we were on the right path. And I didn't know what he meant by that. I didn't even know we could be on a wrong path. The next person who came was this a large Texas woman. I know because she said howdy. I asked her who she was. Apparently she's just some lady who lived down there in the city, but she had a big house with a bunch of her family, and the FEMA had kicked them all out. She said she was just trying to survive, and I thought her story lined up, so I did end up letting her come in after looking at her for a while because I was still pretty suspicious. She seemed happy. She said bless my heart, and I thought I did the right thing here. And she warned me that the second I start denying people, that FEMA would drag us all out of here. Then the next lady who came was this nice woman. She seemed to be distressed, but she was telling me that she had an orphanage actually of children, and these children were apparently tainted children that other people had thought were visitors, that they were living in an old kindergarten building, and apparently the townsfolk had burned it down. So I decided to let her in because I thought she was a nice person. And after that, no one else came, so I did decide to call the night there. Once I went to sleep, day had eventually come, but I got the message that it smelled like somebody died, which honestly surprised me because I wasn't sure who the imposter was. Then the news was talking about how wildfires from the sun being so hot is actually fucking up the world right now. There's a lot of disasters going on because of it, which I thought was fucking insane how hot it's actually getting. But crews were deployed to fix the fires. Despite the fires, visitors were going crazy, and the organization had identified a new way to tell if they are monsters. You take a picture of them, and they need to have these like circles around them. Next thing I did was I went around asking if people were alright. Once I talked to this lady, she was really struggling. She was telling me about how she doesn't know how adults could do something like this, why they would be so terrified to kill kids. Well, I thought it's pretty reasonable considering the situation we're in, but she didn't think it would ever come to something like this. I talked to this lady and I was really suspicious because of her eyes were turning red, which I didn't notice when she was at my door. She was telling me not to let anybody in and expressing her distrust of Fema. Next thing I decided to do was talk to the little girl again. I asked her if she was okay, what's up with her, and she seemed to not know the situation. She was asking me when she could go home. She was trying to tell me if her parents would come get her soon. I did lie to her and say they were building a new house for her, and she was asking if her dad would come. But then I was like, you saw what happened, didn't you? And she said she doesn't know, that she wasn't sure. But when she first came, she was pretty convinced that her dad had been killed. She said her dad got hit, but then he got up, and she's convinced he's gonna come looking for her. I wasn't so sure about that at the time. Next thing I did was check the basement. Nothing much different in here. Just looked around a little bit, see if anything changed. So I went back up, picked up the phone, and decided to give my neighbor a call to see if maybe he was alive. Unfortunately, I did not get an answer. So I decided to call the perfect match for like the call people. I forgot what it was called. Basically, this lady had answered. She was asking what I wanted to know about her because she wanted to tell me personal things, but she thought that I should know more about her first. She told me she had moved away from her family to a cold area before the cataclysmic event started, but she had this person with her that she had loved, that they loved each other dearly, but they hadn't confessed their love before the disaster started. She was telling me how amazing he was, how caring he would be, and then she didn't realize for a while until they actually liked each other. Unfortunately, they could never find the right moment, and there wasn't any time after the disasters because she needed to move and he didn't have papers. So she eventually did have to leave him behind, and she regrets it very much. She asked me about myself, and I told her I didn't consider anyone close because it seemed my character is very lonely. He apparently had a rough relationship with his father, so I kept telling her about myself, that all I had left was this house. She told me she was sorry, that it sounded I'm not too thrilled to have the house, and I guess my character is just a really unfortunate guy who is going through a lot. But she was thankful I called her and she told me to stay strong. Next, I actually did get a message from the radio. It sounded like Fema was doing something. They had called in a code requesting a burn team for body disposal. And, it just came through that they acknowledged it. Told them to stand by for reinforcements. This whole Fema thing, I'm starting to get way, way more suspicious over them. I don't trust them. Next thing I did was decide to go investigate the lady since her eyes were red. She blamed it on always having messed up the blood vessels in her eyes that were always messed up. This convinced me that she was a visitor, mainly because someone had died when I let her in and no one else was as suspicious as her. I didn't see anything bad on anyone else. She tried to say, oh, it's cancer, or like asking me if I thought it was cancer. Of course, I didn't think so. I was really struggling with the decision for a moment because all she had was one symptom, but I knew there had to be a visitor in the house.
Fuck you!
So I did go with the decision to shoot her, but she said that her brood would come after me. Ended up killing her. Next, I checked the teeth of this lady. She had fucked up teeth, so I decided she was safe. Next, I realized I hadn't checked on the little girl yet. I didn't want to do anything too invasive, so I decided to just take a photo of the aura, check her out, let's see what it got. Then it came out clean enough, so I decided it was okay, and I left her alone. After that, I decided to call it a day there and went to sleep until night. This night had been even stranger. After I got up from bed, I looked through the window and I saw a woman crying over her wounded husband. I couldn't tell if they were alive or dead, but she was crying and dragging his body away from the gunfire. I thought that things would only get worse from here. After backing away from that window, I looked at the next one, and there was a path littered with bodies of the people who tried to run away. Standing next to them was a FEMA officer who was responsible for their deaths. He was holding a rifle, and then the smoke was coming out of the barrel. And I looked through the streets. Panicked people were rushing into nearby houses. They were banging on doors, desperate for shelter, but nobody wanted to let them in. This was all very concerning. When I looked out the window, things were taking a turn for the worst as the city behind this man was on fire. I asked who this man was, and he told me he knew who I was. He expressed to me that the mycelium told him, which is it speaks very trickily. But basically, mycelium is the things for mushrooms. I'm pretty sure they make you trip, but I'm not completely 100 on that. He was trying to get me to do something for him. He wanted me to read a book or have smiles. I didn't really understand what the hell he was talking about, but he left me some pages, and I'll read it right now to you. The pages read, "Today the world was built anew, and in the basement mushrooms grew. It towered high, and the time is nigh to eat it whole if one would try. To welcome guests is not for strong. The mushroom stands tall and long. Under tree of apple can you rest. She'll feed you with her sweet fruits best. The day will come when one must kneel before the mushroom's mighty peel. While on the clock the hand shall climb, make haste, my friend, there is no time," which I thought was a super ominous message that I really didn't understand. After that, I did decide to just call it there for the night. I had woken up to the news telling me there was a new warning coming out. They were telling people that there was civil unrest in the cities, and due to the unresolved circumstances, FEMA was sealing off the area. They were telling us we needed to stay in our homes and wait for instructions. Then, next came on a segment about what the visitors actually were. They were explaining that this is our new reality. Rumors continue to swirl about the visitors' true origin. Are they aliens, the Walking Dead, a lab experiment gone wrong? According to authorities, these are all just baseless theories. But studies show that a visitor is a human who has come into contact with an undetermined biological agent. And this made me think that this was more like a zombie virus, which was concerning because that means anyone could just turn into one. I thought they were regular creatures. But I messed with the radio and I got a message. There was people saying that they just wanted to get out of here, and they were begging for help, saying that FEMA was killing anybody who was trying to escape. That was really messed up. So the next thing I decided to do was talk to the little girl. She was still crying, begging for her mother, which is normal, and she was asking if I could invite her friends. She gave me the number. I don't think I called till a little later, but I asked about her dad. I told her that I was sorry about her dad. Then she realized truly that no one was coming to get her. I checked in the basement and I found a mushroom that was growing there, which confused me, but then I remembered it was because of that guy. He told me that that a mushroom would come. Or he didn't tell me, but the note he gave me told me. So I went to my fridge, I found the mushroom, and I decided to eat it. Then I drank a beer so I could go to sleep because I didn't think anyone else needed to be getting checked. and that's all I did, and decided to go to sleep for the day. It became nighttime, and I did wake up, ready to check outside. A group of evicted stand by my neighbor's house. They were in shock, whispering to themselves. I think they wanted to take shelter there, but I didn't think there was any place safe to hide in the world anymore. Next window on the path stood an armed man with an assault rifle who looked insane. His jacket is covered with torn out teeth and eyes. Who knows what else? It's hard to make it out from the window. What if they're trophies? Or what if he kills not for self-defense, but for sport? Whatever the case, I hope that wasn't his enemy. Next, I looked out this window, and on a pole hangs a man with a sign that reads, "You took everything from me." Was he robbed, or did FEMA take his family? In my mind raced, but there was no answer, only guesses. Then I checked the door. The first guy who came was this large fellow. He seemed to want to make jokes, telling me that he had a mother-in-law, saying that they'll come screaming and knocking, that FEMA wanted him out. But he was just kidding, saying he didn't have a mother-in-law and he wasn't even married, which I was like, that's really stupid. I really at first thought he was kind of lying about that actually, but I did see his teeth look messed up and I invited him in, but he wanted me to kick someone out for him. I think he wanted me to kick out the little girl, so I did deny him because I knew my people were good and I was only a little half sure about him. I thought it was ridiculous he wanted me to kick someone out for him, so I told him he should leave. Next, a mother came by who was exhausted. She just needed a place to sleep. She told me she had 5 kids, there was only one left, that her husband had disappeared too. She wasn't sure if he was dead or abandoned them, but now she just wants to lay down and rest for some couple days. She thinks that the father took the kids, but she wasn't sure. I wasn't completely 100% on her, but I did decide to let her in because I thought she was safe. The next thing who came by was this zombie-looking guy who I immediately was suspicious of. I asked him what happened to him, but he apparently was one of the firefighters sent out to fight the fires that the sun was causing, and destroying the world. But he had gotten caught up in one of the fires, and all of his crew was dead. That he needed a place to rest and die because he couldn't go home since the public transportation was all destroyed. So he gave me a FEMA quarantine slip that I could give to someone to force them to go to quarantine. I ended up taking him in because I felt bad for the guy, and that's all I did this night, and I went to sleep. I woke up to the news playing. They said, "Good afternoon, this is the news." They had some important updates. New details emerged from the recent incident that unfolded in the city. It seemed one of the city's quarantine zones came under attack from an armed individual. I think it was the guy I saw last night with fucking fingers on his hands, on his neck. Then the regular guy got interrupted. Silence is the harbinger of death, a sinister quiet that drains the soul. But worse than the emptiness is the ringing, a distant funeral knell growing ever louder. The bells toll for us all, filling our ears with endless din. Filthy thoughts caught in webs of wax. Now, an infernal nest where visitors thrive, tangled deep in the sticky sustenance. Syrian Indinus, Kuriaman Indinus, Syriaman Indinas. That was a really strange interruption that didn't make a lot of sense to me, but I suppose it was just a warning on something new that you could identify visitors with. I was really creeped out that they just kind of interrupted like that. Anyways, the next segment said that the city's greatest challenge may lie ahead due to the lockdown measures imposed. Corpse disposal in surrounding areas has been temporarily suspended. Residential inspections, however, will keep going, and if I'm able to cremate the deceased, to do so immediately. If not, wait until the situation is resolved before surrendering any accumulated remains. After that, I decided to check on the firefighter guy. He seemed that his situation was getting worse, that his pain was being eased though since he was able to rest, but he was ashamed to be sitting here while everyone else fighting the fires was dying. He wanted to stay with them, and it's not like he had anything to lose. He was already on his way out after all. After that, I went in to check on the mother. She was saying it was stuffy in here. I asked her if she was okay. She said yes, but the kid was a little anxiety because he didn't know anyone here, which was normal. She felt like it was her fault for even dragging him into this world, but it was too late to change any of that now. So I decided to test her. I was a little choosy on what to pick here, but I did end up going with the ears because that was the most recent one I got. She said that they're probably all waxed up. When I looked at her ears, they seemed normal, so I did just leave her alone. Then I decided to check on this guy. He was willing to let me take a photo of him. Then when I took the photo, I was a little concerned because that's the color where you could see if they're visitors, but it wasn't circles, so I decided it was okay. Next, I clicked on the mirror in the bathroom and I realized I could check myself, which was kind of scary. So I used my last bit of energy to check my teeth. It was concerning because I had straight white teeth, which meant I had the potential to be a visitor. Now this was concerning. I wasn't sure what I should do about that. I couldn't really do anything. I couldn't shoot myself, so I called it a night there. I started off the night by getting out of bed. Then I looked through the first window. It seems like wild dogs are roaming the streets. Their bodies had burns on them and hunger was running them thin. Inside the house I wasn't afraid, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it's better not to go outside. Next, I looked out the other window, and a small group carrying their belongings gathered nearby. They were whispering, trying not to be heard by Fema. It looks like they were from the quarantine zones, and they were moving in former residence. Now the hanging man looks like a grim welcome sign. I checked the door, and the first one that was here was a FEMA agent. Basically, he was just trying to get more people to take with him. I asked him what was going on in the city. He didn't really have a good answer for me. He was just saying that if we keep resisting, there's gonna be more problems and more outbreaks, and it'll lead to more violence. So I reluctantly agreed, and he took the woman and child, and the nice girl who was watching the children. Once they took off, the next person who came was some strange man saying he felt a presence in my home. I asked him what he meant. He said death. Death had taken a liking to my house and she was fond of it. And he didn't know how many people have died here, but her presence was strong. I asked him who he was, why he was dressed like that. He said he was the bringer of a new faith. These people had their faith in death as some sort of goddess. In any case, he wanted to leave his members here, and he asked me that they had to survive long enough to complete their tasks. I said it sounded like a tall order. He said the path to peace is never an easy one. Then I said, what if I didn't? And he said he threatened me with members of his cult coming here, dousing my home in gas and burning it. Then he said, where would I run? And so I should let them stay. That he doubted it would take very long. Unfortunately, I had to agree about him leaving them here. I didn't really have much of a choice. Next came this strange guy from yesterday who had the fingers around his neck. He was saying that it was good that I'm keeping my distance because it heightens my survival chances unless I was a visitor. And I asked, why isn't he staying safe? He said it wasn't a game. People pity the visitors, think they can, I don't know, do better. A couple days pass and they butcher everyone in the house. Then they run off and do it all again. No justice. He found himself as the bringer of justice and order. He thinks he's peacemaker pretty much. I don't know, what was his name? Peacekeeper, peacemaker, whatever. I brought up Fema saying I didn't trust them, and he found that very suspicious, but he had to go and check in on someone else. He said he'd be back later because I've piqued his interest, which honestly left me really suspicious of the whole thing. Next came a man in a suit. The first thing I noticed was his hand was all messed up. So I instantly knew I wasn't going to bring him in because the news said not to let people who have dirty hands in, because that means the visitors were crawling up from the ground. He wanted to come in my house so he could die here, and I told him no because, well, he said he blamed the thing on grout, which I don't know what it is. Either way, I don't want his body here because that could lead to worse things. He said he was gonna go and die in some bush nearby and not to cast his body aside whenever he does. After that, I went off to bed and called it a night there. I woke up to the news in the morning with a good morning. They were telling me that Fema is assisting victims of overcrowding, and that due to overcrowding, facilities have requested that homeowners let people be housed in their places just until it's been solved. People were cooperating with that. And they found a new way to identify visitors as well. It was if their gums were bleeding, which was kind of gross, I thought. But that was the latest for now until they had another report on the new dangerous cult. The visitors aren't just hiding among us, they may be infiltrating our very thoughts. Multiple cities are now reporting outbreaks of organized cult activities. Charges against them include ritual sacrifice, worship of an unknown deity, and possible ties to the visitors. According to these reports, the cult has taken a public stand against Fema. What began as a harmless, I don't know what that word is, have now escalated into direct action. Some experts believe that the cult may even be responsible for the recent violent incidents in the city. Viewers are urged to avoid contact with the so-called new believers. Aiding or sympathizing with any cultists may result in arrest or criminal charging. Next, I checked on the cultists that I was housing in my house. The first one seemed to really believe in what death the goddess was, that everyone should give in to her. There was no need to be afraid. The second one still struggled with his faith in the death goddess. He was unsure of what lied beyond life, what it would feel like, and he was telling me his mentor mentioned there was neither heaven nor hell, that it's something that we could never possibly grasp. That he was also expressing that how could anyone ever understand death herself, that she was probably beyond comprehension. He didn't want to question his mentor though. He was afraid of him. He saw in his eyes nothing but confidence and understanding. He told them all to embrace death and only cross the rivers of the dead and the mountains of bones to reach her after they die. The last cultist seemed to be an old man. He told me not to worry, that they weren't here to cause me any trouble. That they appreciated my hospitality and they don't want to anger me, that I've done so much for them already. There wasn't much else that happened, so I decided to go to sleep. After waking up that night, the first thing I did was check the windows. An armed visitor hunter holds the group of survivors at gunpoint. He probably stumbled upon them by chance, and I heard snips of them yelling and shouting. Who's gonna survive in the new world? Not these people. The next window had a FEMA officer standing over the dead dogs. One of them was jolting down things. And she didn't do much, but I was a little creeped out that she was standing over dead dogs. The window had two FEMA officers at gunpoint looking at the man that was hanging like the main attraction of the area. They looked like clueless detectives, probably wondering how he got up there without a ladder. Pretty interesting thing to wonder about someone who's dead. The mushroom man ended up coming back, and he said that I apparently didn't look into the hints well enough, that he was done wasting his time with young people. Then after him, this weird guy showed up. Now, I wasn't a big fan of him and his attitude because he seemed to be very angry. He was calling people jackasses, saying that he hopes I'm not one of them. Yeah, he came here demanding to be let into my house. He said that there was two camps of people. One camp of people were sadists who gave in to visitors, and the other camp of people were people who were like pacifists, waiting and begging to be saved. His teeth were messed up, so I did let him in. Next came the visitor again, the weird one that always shows up. He said that change was haunting me, and that so was he. And now, one of my ilk is deathless. I'm not sure what ilk means. All because of a word, one single word, but what a word it is. I'm not sure what the word is. Do you know who I mean? Yes. Strange things happen around you. I wasn't totally sure what he was talking about, to be honest. But he said it sounded like I needed help. And why didn't I try a gamble? He proposed a game that if there was two visitors inside the house, I would open it up and allow him to come in. Unfortunately, I don't think there was any visitors in my house at the time, so I didn't have to open the door. But when he said because dogs reside in their bodies, I said I didn't understand. He said let's give it a try, but first, he asked if I was alone. I said I was not alone, because there is clearly a lot of people in my house, so I wasn't sure why he kept asking this question. Even we are a rare sight now, let alone your kind locked in their walls. Change isn't the worst thing coming for you. You don't think I lead the pack, do you? There are far greater things out there. He was suggesting that he's following orders, that something out there far greater than the visitors is threatening humans. The next people who showed up was a couple. This man and his wife came to my door asking for entrance, but his wife wouldn't say a word, so it had me pretty suspicious of them. I didn't think it would be a good idea to let them in, and he decided to try and bribe me, telling me his wife was very sick and that he would do anything for her. I honestly wasn't comfortable with how he was speaking for her, and she refused to say anything at all. But he did try and buy me off. He said he could give me a shirt, and speaking of that, it was something that wasn't his shirt, but he offered me kombucha, the thing that would allow me to save the game. So, deciding to take this bribe, I'm positive I wanted them in because I wanted the kombucha. But he didn't want me to keep the little girl in the house. He expected me to kick her out because his wife wasn't fond of kids. I couldn't kick out the little girl because at the beginning I promised that I would take care of her. So I told him to buzz off. Next came this strange little British guy. I thought he was British, but I'm not sure. Honestly, I didn't like him at all. He compared humans to bees, saying that all of us were animals, and the only difference between us and dogs is whoever was alive in the morning. At the end of his spiel, he said he wasn't here to rock the boat, and for us to let him in. Unfortunately, I didn't really like how he was acting, and I didn't want to let him in. But he said to expect to hear from him again, which I felt was very suspicious. Once that was done, I decided to call it a night there. In the morning, I woke up to a message that said somebody had died at night and a really long news segment. The situation in the city is stabilizing, but fugitives are at large. Meanwhile, corpse disposal operations have resumed through new challenges have emerged. According to the latest reports, packs of stray dogs are now roaming the streets, and FEMA deployed a team to address them. The agency has also announced identifying new sign of visitors, skin irritation. The investigation is ongoing, whether the attacker was in a group or not. However, there is no doubt that FEMA will contain both this and the visitor threat. They told us to stay put, await instructions, and up next, a report on an unfolding situation on the Equator Belt. Troubling news from the countries in Equatorial region tonight. Widespread wildfires, extreme heat, and droughts are devastating multiple nations. Recent reports indicate temperatures are so high that contact with the ground was enough to cause third-degree burns. The death toll remains unknown, and evacuation is currently impossible. Our government has so far been unable to establish communications with authorities in the affected regions. However, once conditions allow, FEMA officers will be deployed to assist with disaster relief. That was all for now. Then I went to go check the radio, and it came with an ominous message. To everyone listening, FEMA is trying to jam all signals to keep things under wraps. That was really concerning because this is what I suspected from the start. They want to hide everything that's going on in the city. They're trying to blame it all on that psycho who killed everyone in the quarantine zone. I think that's the guy with the fingers who came by a couple times already. It said, if you're still in the city, get out, that it's not safe. That was a very ominous message. To avoid FEMA patrols, they're trying to kill you. Run while you still can. After that, I decided to go check on the cultists. They were sitting in their same spots. The first one, I asked why he worshipped death. He said, because death is the embodiment of mercy. We all fear her, but are our fears justified? Considering, well, our world is no paradise, but purgatory that torments us, and the question burns, why? So much fear, pain, and suffering. Do we not deserve peace? He seemed to be questioning this more than telling me. Death is a paradise we cannot comprehend. Religion attempts to simplify the image of heaven to soothe the woes of those people, but is life ever so simple? The same goes for death. You cannot hope to understand her until you have felt her touch. I didn't know what to make out of his message. Then I asked him why he worships death. He said, please, kind Honomer, please. Oh shit, I fucked that up. She despises blasphemous who label her as unjust and punishes them harshly. Her nature terrifies me, but our mentor says death may be the kindest of all gods. She does not bring famine, plague, or war. She simply grants rest, and we need to meet her. And I asked how he was feeling. To the land of the outsiders, human life isn't eternal. We're merely guests on this earth. We come once, and lo, we shall leave. The outsiders must take this land next, settle here. Their arrival is not random, summoned by the same call that draws us away. Death summoned them here. Then I talked to the gravedigger. I asked how come he hasn't been digging new graves. He said, me? Hell no. I ain't stupid. Look, I've been around the dead all my life. Used to be death didn't bother me. You die, they bury you, deal done. Now, who's left to bury you? That's freaky, man. That's freaky. But I could tell why. I mean, these things are eating people. How do you know you'll stay buried? I saw a grave I know I filled and it was empty, but I buried it myself. Now I'm thinking maybe my grave will be empty too. Maybe I'm a visitor already. Don't worry about me. I was just spooked as all. So these guys are kind of just in here being freak shows. And, I decided to just leave them alone after staring at them for a little bit because honestly, the cultists freaked me out. I looked at the date, it said it was Diplomacy Day. Next, I checked on this big old dude. He said, fucking shit, seriously? Fuck, well fine, be quick about it because I wanted to check him. So I decided to do a photo. But he had dots. He didn't have a clear aura. Plus, honestly, I think it was more I didn't really like the guy. So I decided to leave him alone after that one, but I did want to check him again. So the next thing I chose was his ears. They look a little waxy and leaking stuff. And I left him alone again, but I needed more concrete evidence. So for the last thing, I told him to show me his teeth. And his teeth were straight and white, which was all the proof I needed because his teeth were fake on the outside, but when I looked at them, they were white and straight. So I decided to shoot the guy. He called me a dickweed and said I was out of my mind. He called me a completely heartless bastard, and I left him there, dead. After that, I decided it was time to just call it a day. I woke up ready to start the night, but to my surprise, it was a quick one. The first window said the whole group was dead. Hungry dogs tore at their bodies, spent shells are scattered near the bodies. The hunter must have killed them. The madness of this world has gone too far. I closed that window and made my way to the next one, opening it to reveal cultists piled firewood into a huge heap. Questioning if they were planning to burn something, their mad plan would likely reveal itself soon, but until then, how many innocent lives will be lost to their cause? Then, when I closed that window, I made my way to the next one, opening it to see on the road stands a crazed man. He holds a gas can and a Molotov cocktail. Is he planning to burn the whole village? Does he not know these people are in quarantine? All questions I asked myself before looking out the window. To a FEMA agent saying he needed more people. It was the only way to end the catastrophe. I told him why. He told me cut the bullshit. He was irritated and saying that if I keep playing games, he'll take everyone in the house. I said, what the fuck is the point of the agency if they're not doing anything? He ran out of patience and said he wasn't arguing. Either he would break the door down and take everyone in here or hand over 2 people right now. He said I wasn't the first to try to resist and I won't be the last. I tried to say no to him that I wasn't handing anyone over, but he decided to just do his business anyways, threatening to break the door down and take everyone and leaving me behind to die. So he came in and stole the little girl and stole the gravedigger, which were the 2 people I had since the start. It made me really upset that he had taken the little girl because it meant I failed my promise to my neighbor. Then the cultist came. He asked how his flock were. This wasn't a very good time, and I told him, but I did tell him they were all still alive. He said he was sure I was tired of it too, these noisy times and oppression. Death spoke to him not too long ago, and she hopes to meet me when the time comes. She may offer me a place to hide from everything, even the path that I'm on. I'm not sure, he wasn't sure himself what that meant yet, but he asked me if it sounded tempting. I had to sit there and contemplate this for a bit, but not before the last guy came. He is the crazy man who came around hunting people. He went to a few houses and he thinks it's all crawling with visitors. He asked if FEMA gave up on the town or just the block. I asked him what if they only showed 2, or actually I asked him how does he himself spot a visitor? He responded with the same way I do, he'd bet. Through the TV and the radio spill it out. That one sign is enough, and he puts them down. He doesn't hesitate for a second. Since he was here, he wanted to ask if I saw a guy who wears a blue denim jacket. He told me he got a kid and a little girl, not sure how old, and he said fuck his wife. I was pretty sure he was talking about my neighbor. Unfortunately, I didn't know how to respond, so I said that his girl was the only one who made it out. He wanted to see that I wasn't one of them, one of the visitors. He asked if I had a gun. He said he didn't care. We would both go down shooting. So, contemplating it for a minute, I decided to show him my hands. My hands were clean, showing that I wasn't a visitor, good enough for him. He said, of course they're fucking clean. He said, let me tell you something. Here's a tip. The ones who look normal, they're always the one to turn, the first to turn. Which concerned me because I was like, oh, this is like a zombie thing. They fucking turn into zombies. Now that's crazy. After sitting there for a bit, I waited and I realized no one else was gonna show up tonight. So with nothing else to do, I decided to head back to my room and call it a night. I woke up in the morning to another news alert. He said the city remains unstable and the recent lockdown is in place. However, a new threat has emerged. Members of the cult have been sighted on the outskirts of the city. Some suggest they may be preparing a ritual which appears to involve open flames. Fema believes this group may have been directly involved in the recent attacks on the quarantine zone. Unfortunately, due to ongoing situations, Fema nor the military can deploy a dedicated task force. Once again, the news provided me with this number to call on anyone I found suspicious. And they gave us a new way to identify. Fungus growing on your body is the next way you can identify a visitor. If a fungus outbreak is on your underarm or somewhere where you sweat. Once I checked the news again, they said the sun is still striking. Scientists have released troubling new projections on the global climate. If the current heat wave does not subside, meltwaters from the polar ice caps may lead to catastrophic flooding. Researchers continue to investigate the cause of ongoing climate anomaly, but no answers have come so far. That was all for them, and they told me to stay tuned for updates. After that, I exited my room, and I decided to look around, opening the doors, checking to see what the people were up to. I checked on the cultists. I asked him why he chose my house. He said my house is filled with death like no other. That death lingers in the walls, intangible yet suffocating, and it presses on the soul. The naked concrete reeks of spilled blood. Do not think we bid you murderer. You spill the blood of your own accord without our urging. He believed that my bond with death was tighter than any of theirs. The next one, I asked him why he was so eager to find death. He said the journey wasn't his choice, it was the will of death herself. She called them, she yearns for them in her domain. Their mentor said that's why the sun burns so fiercely now, trying to drive us from the surface. Death offers silence, peace, and unity. Her lands are where they will reunite. We mourn the dead in vain, forgetting we'll meet them again one day. I asked him why he thinks the visitors were summoned by death. He said, because death makes no distinction, human, beast, nor outsider. Death is the same for everyone and everything, and we are all equal before her. She has waited for a precise moment, and now the time is almost upon us. We must prepare for the ritual. Pretty spooky stuff, man. After I left that room, I decided to check the rest of the rooms. I was sad that they took the little girl. I didn't really know what to do about that. The storage room had remained empty this entire time. I looked in the mirror since I was the only person I could check. I decided to take a look at my armpits, and it had the fungal growing. I wasn't sure what to do about that. My character seemed to freak out a little bit, so he suggested I clean up a little bit. After cleaning up, I checked once again to make sure I was okay, but before that, I had decided to ponder my options until I went with the armpits again, just to make sure I wasn't covered in the fungus anymore. I looked at my options, thinking about what else I could do. So I decided to look at my eyes, because the murdering person said he would come back and check me properly again. So I needed to check myself to see what I could offer up next time. After that, I looked at the phone. I didn't think I had anyone else I could call. So I checked the basement one more time. Looking around, it had stayed the same this entire time except for that mushroom, which was a little disappointing. I thought there was going to be something crazy in there. I tried to mess with the radio again. I don't think I found anything here. Messing with the radio was really difficult. I'm not really good at it. I kept fucking it up every time, but I did get a message. It was really cut out though. What I thought it says was they shouldn't have needed all this. If they had something mains, it wouldn't have come to this. After putting the radio down, I realized I wasn't gonna get any more messages. So with nothing left to do, I decided to call it a night, or a day. I woke up at nighttime, ready to face the day one more time. The curtain I tried to open was still not able to. I went to look out the windows. The bodies who were hiding in my neighbor's house burnt under the midday sun. The dogs feeding off them had fled, scared perhaps. What if they had not ran from Fema, but something worse? I questioned myself. I looked through the next window. Cultists had tied themselves up at the bonfire. Did they intend to sacrifice themselves? The thoughts twisted through my mind. Fear of death has clouded all reason, and people are willing to do the unspeakable. When this kind of madness happens only after a few weeks, it's terrifying to imagine what could happen next. That warning left me with an ominous feeling. I wasn't sure what was coming. But when I looked out the window, burning houses blazed bright and screams echoed in the distance. I knew the madman that was behind all this. Could my house be next? Would he come tomorrow or next week? I wasn't sure. I would likely meet the lunatic face to face, and it was only a matter of time. After closing that window, I looked out the door to see some guy I thought looked like Mr. Beast. He asked if a girl with a poncho and purple hair had been here. I didn't think so. I was actually pretty sure she hadn't. And I said that we didn't have anyone like that in here. He said that it was his daughter, that he hadn't been able to find her since all this started, that they were supposed to leave this place. Then the heat wave hit. He passed out, and when he woke up, no one was home. No note, no trace. His daughter had just vanished. So I told him, where did he want to go? He said somewhere Fema couldn't reach them, far away from here. They were looking for him because he knew too much about them. Maybe the bastards took his daughter, maybe not. He wasn't sure, and he said if they did touch her, it's him that they want. He asked if he could crash here for a couple days, at least until Fema leaves. Then he would move on, looking for his daughter. He said he would tell me everything. He'd know where the visitors came from. I decided to let him in, but then I saw his smile, and that was a little concerning. That's a clear sign of being a visitor. And he said that me and him were immortal. Now that is what really made me believe I was screwed. He told me, then the visitor came. He said someone said that this would be our last little chat, that everything was coming to an end, either by their hands or mine. I asked him what he meant. He said he was just telling me what he was told, that's all, and asked if I felt it yet. Death creeping closer and closer, that it was breathing down my neck already. I asked him why he kept coming here. He said, you only thought now just to ask that? He questioned me. Have you ever considered that I was chosen? And he laughed at me. They sent him for a reason. To change something, he questioned, but the outcome is always the same. I die. And if not today, then tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then later. I will disappear. But for now, he asked if I let any of them into my home. I wasn't sure how to answer. There were so many options to choose from, but it felt like every single one of them was true. So as I pondered my question, I felt like this would have a big impact on what would happen next. So I decided to answer honestly. I told him that I got rid of the few who didn't belong. No, that I got rid of anyone who didn't belong. He asked why I was so tense, clinging to life like this. What's left that matters, he questioned. I was all alone now. So he asked if I was alone once more, and I said I wasn't. He said, so you're ready. If I felt fear, he said, still can't take matters into my own hands. That's why he was here. And then he disappeared. The last person came. He said, death no longer speaks to me. This is how the world ends. So, but everything's fine with me, isn't it? I said his flock are fine. He says as it should be, that her gaze is still upon us, that he shan't linger, he'll be moving on. I said, what's with death? He said, the day of her arrival is nigh, and it's of no consequence if we didn't fully understand why we hear summon. What truly matters is what we are in the world, yet the thought of eternal nothingness, it terrifies us. The concept of an is but a hollow dream promised by false religions. The cycle of rebirth, little more than an endless torment with short breaks between. But death herself, she might spare us from the most terrible fate that is the void. We have no choice but to keep calling to her. Then I said that this isn't a daycare. He asked if they were truly bothering me so much, or perhaps peace just isn't what I yearn for after all. He said he would take his leave with gratitude regardless. As a token of gratitude, he offered salvation. He said I could join their rite and find peace. He told me to come and hold their hand as we marched toward death. I didn't see any other options left for me, and I pondered what I should do before choosing to join them. He said he rejoiced that I would join them, that death did not choose me in vain. Today, brothers, we find our salvation. First we shall attend to our preparations, then we wait. Behold, the eternal luminescence dulls. The time of violence has passed, and we usher in a new age of tranquility. The time for worry is over. My flock will starve, suffering of its feed. We give names to the dead so that we truly know their death was not in vain. They will be taken just like us. That is how we shrouded Alun. That is his name now. We too will receive names. This is it. The time has come. Brothers, let's call her upon her. We are ready. This ending began. It said, fear and corruption of her word keep us from her embrace, not to pass to nothingness, but to return into death. We surrender our bodies unto death's embrace to find peace in what lies beyond. Long ago, this knowledge dwelled upon the earth, but the great extinction claimed more lives alone. But now we walk the path in the ways of old. She shall cradle us all. None shall be forsaken. Even death herself shall ascend. Do you feel it? She is here. A voice echoes in the air, its owner unclear. You appeared from nowhere, drawing eyes upon yourself. We must act now. Some doors are best left closed. Come, I will hide you. I shall return you to where you always were meant to be. I will grant you peace, just as humanity has always longed for. You were never meant to survive this madness of the cosmos. I will preserve your memory. Okay, if you made it this far, I really appreciate you watching all of this. I sifted through about 4 hours of footage, cutting it down to an hour, and I think we're gonna reach 40 minutes. I really hope you guys like this. I haven't uploaded a video in a really long time, and if you like this style or if you like this game, comment below. Tell me what you really think of the video style and the game. If you want me to play this game again and go for a different ending, or if you want me to change up how I make videos. I can go back to making the supercuts of how with sound effects and funny moments kind of thing, or I can make different Let's Plays but with a different style. If there's a game you want me to play, or if there's something else any notes you have of the video, I'll appreciate it. But thank you for watching, and like and subscribe. I recorded this all live on Twitch that I have linked down below. Bye.